The following content has been provided by New St. Andrews College in Moscow, Idaho. For more information, visit us online at nsa.edu.
Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison, that's right.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
She's my sister.
And likewise,
Yeah.
she is mine.
It's been this way all along. Only now thought to reveal it to you in episode 26.
Oh, it's not like they couldn't tell from our voices, where we're indistinguishable.
Probably not.
One
I'm
from
starting to
another.
think I have a speech impediment from every time I hear myself on the... I don't listen to the podcast, but I was like, do I lisp? Apparently I
just
do.
kept it from you.
I know. I guess I've never been
We've been
told
keeping
this
that
before.
a secret.
Yeah, so here we are. It's the night. It's
It is
already
the night this time.
It's already given us a lot of reasons to think that
So,
it was not meant to be tonight.
well, yeah, the fates may be against us. The first thing that happened was that we have this little recorder, right, and a little disc that we put in it, and we record it, and then we hand it off, and people work their magic and
Which
put
is
it online.
incidentally why we know nothing about the
We don't
technical
know.
side of this.
We
We
know
don't do
nothing.
any of it.
We push the button. That's what we do. And
Sometimes, if you're lucky, we push the button.
but the little tiny disc, I mean, it's tiny. It's like the size of your pinky fingernail, this little
Yeah.
disc. And then you have to put it in a bigger disc.
You have
And then you
huge
hand it
pinky
off.
fingernails.
No, the other one's like the size of a quarter. Anyway,
Yeah.
so that thing gets handed back and forth, and they give it back, and we
And in
record
some
on it.
cases, it might
And
go
then
through
it went
the Merkles.
missing. Yeah, it went missing, and we couldn't find it anywhere. And then we had to rummage up a new one. And then, lo, the first one turned up again in our dryer. I have no idea what
But guess
happened
what?
there.
It's not working. I wonder why.
What could have happened?
What might have
So,
happened to it?
It's possible that we're going to cut off in the
If
middle
we
of this.
quit.
If we quit?
Then this is just an abbreviated
Yeah, because
podcast.
we suspect that this tiny disc has less memory than the other tiny disc.
Yeah. So, but here we are,
We're trying.
having a rally, getting ready to podcast
We're-
for the night.
We're
Wow.
giving it our best shot.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's all we can do. And and it's night, so you know, you're already
we're in
running the risk of us at night.
yeah, us at night, but
podcasting.
also in Rachel's car. So everything's switched up right
It's
now.
all different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
usually it's my car, and I'm now in the wrong side. We don't know what will happen.
So what have you been doing, Becca? Tell me, yeah.
Well, that's
Other than washing
that's
memory
a surprise
cards.
question. I don't know.
It's not a surprise. Every single time we podcast, we ask each other this question.
You know, I ask you, and then and then that gives me
That's
time
how
to
you're
think.
like, you had no precedent for me asking that. This surprisingly
Ah.
personal question
The
this time we
surprising
got
thing.
together.
Right. Okay. So
Well, it's Sunday today, and that's actually makes it weird because
Yeah.
we've actually
Yeah,
been
so
having a day of rest.
we had a fun lunch today. I went out in the garden and rummaged up a bunch of stuff out of the garden, and we have a bunch of San Marzano tomatoes that are ripe and being fabulous. And so we made a really fun pasta sauce today, and we made homemade noodles, and then we've got some other fun tomatoes going right now. Little tiny currant tomatoes, and I made those into a bruschetta topping with goat cheese that was stupidly good. We got it right around ready, and it was time for our kids to go off to a cousin birthday party. So we were like, we'll just hang on that. And so the kids left for the birthday party. I put the pasta sauce in the fridge for a bit, and then we had it late, and it was really, really nice. But anyway, it's just been
Nice.
kind of a funny, usually we do
if
our
I
bigger
had
dinner
made us,
after
if I
church.
had made our dinner or lunch from the garden, we could have had like, I don't know, like a dead petunia and a piece of tarp.
locally
That
sourced.
That's what we have. Tarp on the boat.
Oh, we had some really gorgeous little French green beans
Yes,
too.
you're just rubbing
Really
it in.
good.
You're just
Really
rubbing
good.
it in.
I
See?
know.
If
Let's
I
take
can't,
a moment.
I can't feed us out of our yard. There's nothing out there for us.
No, we can only feed ourselves for occasional Sunday lunches. It's like how much effort, time, hours, and gallons of water went into that garden, and we get like 2 Sunday lunches out of it.
I love it. It's great.
I know, but it's fun. I like it.
I concluded the matter on my set of dish towels.
Oh,
that had
they're
been
beautiful.
washed, and I had the big. So this afternoon, I cut them apart and hemmed them, so they're done.
And I got
done.
to witness them. They're really pretty.
Yes, I did make her.
They are really
made
pretty
her
dish
look at them.
towels.
It's funny how many different things now I'm feeling the urge to weave. I was correct when I posited 15
Do you know
years
what's
ago
funny?
that I was going to be into this.
You're
I was
having a real
correct.
weaving, like
Renaissance.
a real kind
It's a
of a real
renaissance.
jonesing to be weaving, and I'm having this with wallpaper right now, which is funny. But I'm having a real like deep need to make another wallpaper.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't see why you shouldn't. I think,
No, I've got one I'm going to hang up in my coat room. We're working on our coat room right now.
Don't you have one in there? I can see it from here. Your
That's
stripes.
not my coat room.
I
That's
should
my
stop. I'm
entryway.
like looking out the window and talking. It's
Yeah,
probably not
it
helping.
probably sounds like we're in a coffee can.
So I have to do some shopping for fall clothes because I think I have none.
You personally?
Mm-hmm.
I know I have none.
I am not. I am a real. The way that I do this is I buy like a nice pair of shoes and then I wear them forever, and then but I'm like at that time where that it's like starting to get cold at night
Don't
and
you,
stuff.
every so often, don't you feel like there might be a lot of wisdom behind the house dress?
Well,
I saw a lady come out
Yeah.
her front door, and she's old school, wearing a house dress, and it was like super flamboyant, crazy pattern, bright color sack, like kind of tea-length sack, and she went out in it and messed around in her yard or something. I was like, there's a lot of reasons why that that's a sensible garment you're wearing.
you're like I like what you're thinking there. That is funny.
Lots of free movement you can have with
Yeah,
that.
I can see the point, I guess. Although it doesn't. Oh dear, I'm yawning.
You're yawning
It doesn't
already.
particularly appeal to me to wear a house dress all
No,
the time.
because
But I
the problem
see
there
that-
is that you have to wear the house dress.
Yeah.
That's the downside.
There's only
Then
one
again,
thing
you
wrong
don't-
with this, and that's wearing it. But otherwise, it's a great idea.
But think it's kind of the one-stop unit. You don't have to put together an outfit.
Okay, Becca, I'm realizing that last week I said, because somebody asked us about this and I said, yeah, I'll bring it up. We'll talk about it.
You did. You promised
did.
an agenda.
I didn't really mean to do that, except for that I also messed us up last week because I forgot what we said we would do for tips, and we were supposed to talk about setting a table, and that's
Okay.
why
yeah,
I threw that
yeah.
into the agenda. We can save
That's
that for
right.
tips,
That's right. Okay.
unless you want to talk about that. But I don't think I have much to say about it, so not super helpful. But body image, I think the reason we were asked this is because we talk both about making bread and having goat cheese bruschetta. And I don't know if we
Which
talked
is-
about dieting. I think we probably have touched on dieting.
Probably. You talked about Weight Watchers.
Yes, because I'm a big fan
It's
of
a
the
good
Weight
thing.
Watchers.
Weight Watchers is a good business.
I have done Weight Watchers multiple times from after having children.
Yeah, it's a good system.
No, the first time I ever did Weight Watchers, I did it with friends
Yeah,
in
when
college.
you were like a size 4.
Yeah,
and you were
with
like, I need to
goal-
struggle back to
Get
a
this,
2.
goal weight loss of 5 pounds. 5. I was like, things are getting out of control. I have
Time to join a
5
club.
pounds to lose. We've got to focus, people. Focus.
Mhm.
And it is so funny because I think now I'm like, well, I don't even know. I don't even want to consider how many pounds ahead of that I am still.
Yeah.
At least, well, I don't know what weight that was, but I figure you got to add a little for every baby you've had. You've got to give yourself a little buffer zone. Anyways, but probably, I don't know, 15 pounds or something more than I was back when I was panicking over those 5.
Right.
You know, people
Right.
always say Like, don't you wish that you could go back to the first time you thought you were fat?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Anyways, the main thing that I want to bring up is that I will say that I talk to my girls about it. Like, I don't know. There's all of this worldly wisdom right now on body, like having a healthy body image or what's realistic.
Mostly it's
how
a lot of just bunk.
But one of the things that is weird wisdom of the world right now is like not ever saying anything beauty related to your daughters, like never saying you're beautiful, but just give them, like, say you're smart, you're
What? Who says this nonsense?
Well, people who are being dummies. I think it's all about not wanting to emphasize the external appearances, so you're just not going to comment on them. You're going to not say anything about that.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's a dark scene. And anyways, that's one of the things. But one of the other things that happens, I love Weight Watchers, but it is not, here comes a car, guys. We have the windows down. It's a summer night. You're going to get treated to the passing neighbors. So, anyways, one of the things that Weight Watchers is Christian. So there's plenty of weird world things in there where they're like, you've got to practice, or I don't know.
Practice loving yourself.
They're like radical self-love, like accepting yourself. And you know, it's it's the world's best imitation of gratitude. Like,
well,
the world's like,
it's such a bad knockoff of gratitude.
Yeah, but it's the best. They're trying to heal the same thing that gratitude does.
But they're trying to do it with pomposity.
By being like, I'm amazing. I am the best thing that ever came to this place. And, like, I'm embracing everything about myself because I am awesome. And that is really sad. But, like...
It's awful.
No,
it's
and they're trying
awful.
to come to some kind of peace with yourself. Whereas coming to peace with your God is a totally other thing. Like, you have to be okay with the fact that sometimes you just aren't looking your best. Like, sometimes... That's just the way that it is. It's like, not about you.
I think it's a big thing of being able to be simultaneously grateful and not discontent.
Right.
But also being ready to roll up your sleeves and work on it.
Yeah.
And it feels like there's this...
That's really hard to do.
It is hard to do because there's this sort of on-off switch that we have that's either, no, I am perfect as is, no need to change, or
I'm to change, I have to be discontent.
I have to hate myself, and I have to...
And that's a real problem. So, like, one thing that I have practiced in this, because since Moses is coming in on 2 years old, I did Weight Watchers since he was probably 6 months or something. And maybe, I think around there. Anyways, so since I had him, I think I've lost 35 pounds or 30 pounds or something slowly over the time. Anyways, but it's funny because I doubt that I gained that much when I had him. I probably didn't gain that much when I probably had
Sometimes these things accrue.
I had my 10-pound child, and then after that, I ate Apple Crisp. I probably managed to throw on 10 pounds after having him. I don't know. Anyways, I wasn't checking all the time. But the thing is that I had to be like, I wanted this to be a long and slow process of just figuring out how to live now. It's not like motivated by crazy discontent or like I can't be a size bigger in jeans than I used to be, or it's nothing like that. It's just like, where would I like to live and how can I get there in a reasonable way? Like,
and how can I do it
in a way that honors God? Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is doing something out of discontent is that is not good fuel.
No.
You know, and when
it's kind of like guilt is a horrible motivator. Yes. It's like if you're guilting yourself, like, I'm so gross, I'm so fat, how did I eat that? What was wrong with me that I had that cookie on Thursday? What is wrong? And the reality is that
and that's horrible. But then you're right. The world's version of trying to imitate gratitude is to act
like you're the God that made yourself. And you should love yourself for making yourself so awesome.
As is.
Right. And you have to be, I talk to my daughters about it. They know that I was dieting. I would talk with them about it. And I was just like, yeah, this is life. Sometimes you got to do that. Like, it's totally worth it. Every time I had you kids, I gained weight and I have to work to lose it, and this is just the story of life. Like, this is just the way it is. It's like not a big deal.
It's like everything else in the world. It's like you get your lawn looking really pretty, and then whoa, dandelions show up and it gets shaggy and you
You're
gotta
like,
mow it again.
gotta fix that.
You
gotta
know,
do
and
that.
you don't have to like despise your yard to go out and mow it. And you don't have to say no. I love it bushy.
And also
You can just go out and mow it.
And you can also taking responsibility for it is not the same thing as judging it. Like, I think that's part of the thing. I said this once in a webinar, but when I was talking about body image. Anyways, it's just that, like, you can have been disobedient and that could get you to a bad place.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you've been eating your emotions for a long time instead of confessing sin.
Yeah.
Let's say that you have been hiding in a closet every night to eat a whole bag of Cheetos because you're mad at your husband. There's all kinds of ways that people gain weight because it is related to sin or to something that you ought to confess. Or even if it was just sloppiness and not paying attention, whatever.
Or just not, just kind of
maybe
letting
it's not a
everything
big
go.
thing, but maybe it's something. Like maybe that whatever it was that compelled you to start eating a bag of chocolate chips was something that you should have dealt with a different way, probably.
Right.
Like,
Probably.
maybe. So, but the thing that I was saying is this is what's so wonderful about the God that we serve is that you can change immediately because what could have been a disobedient fat roll can become an obedient one as soon as you confess it. Do you know what I mean? Like fix your
Here's the thing
get
about
it right with God, and there's no way of it's like get it right, and now you're on the other side in the sense that now you're just honoring Him with how you're dealing with it.
And a disobedient fat roll
is the worst of all fat rolls.
but you could put it on disobediently, but you can also take it off disobediently.
Yes, you can. And you can have it obediently, and you can, I think that the thing is that there's no way of telling by, do you have weight to lose? That doesn't mean anything objectively. It's like, are you right with God? Like,
right.
Then good. And if it's like the guilt is not going to motivate you in a long, healthy way. It's not a happy relationship. So some of the things I would say, really practically speaking, some of the things that I would say, is it's going to like turn off on us.
So far, it's still recording.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay. So one of the things that I would say is when you look at your life and you think like, okay, so I want to lose weight, or I'm not happy with the weight that I am, or whatever. There are some things that I would say you need to have a real eagle eye to weed out of your lifestyle. And one of those things we were talking about, gratitude is a wonderful motivator. So if there is a time that you start thinking like critical, harsh thoughts to yourself, you don't need to turn those around into praising yourself. You need to turn it around into thanking God for your troubles, thanking God for your life, thanking God that you had that sweet baby that made your stomach
thanking
saggy.
God that you are a healthy person who actually has the option of losing weight.
Or that you're a
Thanking
person
God
who had enough food in the neighborhood to have gotten fat in
Thanking
the
God
first place.
that you live in a country where fat rolls are a problem.
No kidding.
There's a lot of stuff to be thankful
Yes,
for.
yeah. And then, so the turnaround of like those mental things, and I have had many times where after having a baby, typically, when I am at my peak, my peak of not wanting to see myself in a mirror. I have had many times where I pray about it, like make sure that my heart is right before I even look in the mirror. Like where I am like, actually have to be like, Lord, thank you for this baby. Thank you for this situation. Thank you that I suspect these pants are too tight to wear to church. Thank you for the trouble that I'm having right now.
Thank you that I live in a century of elastic.
Yes, and like, Lord, just help me not be so self-important that I can't take it.
Yeah.
And you're like, deal with it. And I remember, I may have said this on a podcast before, but I can remember sometime really having to like face it with myself. Like, why am I so embarrassed of this? Like, what am I doing here? Does anyone else care? And I was like, no, the answer is they do not. The answer is nobody at church is waiting to check if I am looking stout today.
Well, or
and then I think if they are, there's a worse trouble for them.
Let's
but on the
just
other
stop
hand,
for a second and say, I'm sure you've had this before. There is a very rare kind of a woman, but they're out there.
It's a competitive woman. They're there.
And you can see that they're sizing you up. They look you head to toe real quick when they say hi. And that is a weird
weird.
thing.
But the thing that I have figured is that I was like, so what if someone looks at me and thinks, good thing I don't have to lose baby weight like that? Then I think, well, honestly, if they actually are thinking that, did I just motivate them to gratitude by being stout?
Right.
Because why would I mind that?
Or if they're being sinfully comparative and proud, that's really their problem, not yours.
Yes, and it's definitely not. That's definitely not a game you want to be playing of trying to get involved in that.
And you know how weird and awkward it is when another woman does that, sizes you up. And you don't want to be that person.
No, and my husband has always told me, he's always like, the most attractive thing that you can wear is a good attitude. This is my husband, who is very kind and very tender, but always there with the cold backhand of reality for me.
Well,
seriously, I love that. That's something I'm very thankful for, is someone who is not too careful around my feelings to say things like that. Like, the least attractive thing you could do is get too self-important to just have some baby weight to lose. Just move on. All right. So we've at least talked about.
And the thing is, it is a tricky
Well, it's
thing.
like a lifelong lesson, I
But
think.
it's like being able to actually give something your effort while holding it loosely. That's
housekeeping to me all the time.
I think
I'm always
it's
like,
life.
I know,
I
but
think
I'm always
it's
like,
all
how
of
do I
life.
care enough to want to work as hard as this takes without caring so much that I'm
That I
flipping
get
out
into
at everyone?
sin
Yeah,
about it.
like
I know.
you try to motivate yourself to high speeds, and then pretty soon you're like, I can't believe you dropped a Cheerio.
Yeah.
Did you see that Cheerio rolling across the floor? And you did it. You. You're like, well, now I'm in sin over one stray Cheerio. One. And I was like,
lucky that I could have such high
I know.
standards.
Good thing I really tightened up on my performance. I still, the one Cheerio. Oh, yes. No, it's terrible. You're like, I have such elevated standards that I'm going to lose it over this level of thing.
That I'm going to flunk on the baby things.
So bad. So, there was something else that I was thinking of. We were talking about that. We got to run out of time. Do we need to move right on to the tip?
Let's check our time here. All right. Well, we're still there. It says
It's counting up.
It's hard to know.
We
It
might
said
turn
that
off
it-
in 2 minutes.
It said we had 25 minutes of remaining time, so
We're at 21 minutes.
So we might just cut off, but
But it's
all
nothing
right.
that we don't normally do to each other on the phone, so we might.
we actually very rarely have a graceful exit to a phone conversation.
No.
We always cut the other person off.
It
I really
never
want to
was.
hear this, but I'm going to hang up.
I'm hanging up. We'll talk to you another time when I have time.
It'll happen later.
Yeah. So we should mention the Bible reading program that starts
it's starting
this
a
week.
Wednesday. And if everything goes well with this podcast system, this podcast will be out in the public eye on Tuesday.
Oh, right.
Which
In theory.
means you could still
So if you haven't
jump in
signed
on
up,
this thing.
go to Christkirk, it's KIRK.com/Bible Challenge. And everything you need is there. Sign up for the email.
And one update though, since everything happened, and so many people have signed up. There's like women from every continent except Antarctica. There's more than 1,000 women signed up, right?
Yeah, I think we have well over 1,000 probably, because we have a lot of people represent. Like
It's
you have your
really-
daughters are not signed up separately,
yes.
and my
So
kids are doing it, and we
My
have
3 girls. But anyway, the one thing that happened is that now they did a guy's printable that
Yes.
does not have the flowers
and
on
it doesn't have the connection to the webinars because
Right.
we're not doing that for the
But
guys. But
there's a lot of guys that were like, hey,
there are a lot of
this
husbands.
seems like a good deal.
there were a lot of husbands who were like, "Why did they say challenge in the title?" Because
Yeah, because
How come my wife is doing something that's a challenge, but I'm not?
My 2 boys were like, hey, that's cool, so they're gonna jump in on it. There's boys in my daughter's classes are doing it at school. There's a lot of
My girls are gonna try to do it, and then I am so excited about it because it is so fundamental and basic that it's almost not an idea. It's almost like Christians reading their Bibles.
But I think that's kind of why everybody's so excited about it.
I know, because everybody's like, come
like,
on,
wait,
yes,
this is the
we
thing.
should do that. This is the
We
thing
got
we mean
into
to
it
do.
with some duct tape last night, covering
did
some
you?
Bibles.
Good,
we did.
good.
We got some cute blue and white stripes happening on our Bibles.
Oh, whoa.
And yeah, we
You got
did it.
classy
We
up
got
at the
we
Merkel
classed
house.
it up. Yeah, we've only got 2 covered. We got to do.
I've been listening to a lot on audio, and so when something really wonderful happens on audio, did it stop?
No, we're good. Keep talking. What wonderful thing.
When something
What
really wonderful
wonderful thing
happens
happens
on
on
audio, something wonderful happens. So when something strikes me when I'm listening to the audio, I flip open the paperback and like circle it or find the spot or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been listening to. I was listening to the Gospels. Like, it's funny because I'll read like 10 chapters in the morning and then I'll listen to a Gospel in the afternoon, and it's amazing how much Bible you can get in when you're trying.
Let me tell you this. I had the freshmen coming over for soup last week, and so I was cooking a like ginormous pot of soup. So I'm running around in the kitchen, and I thought, hang on, I'll just turn on my audio Bible and see. And so I got through Ephesians, and then I turned on Acts, and I got through a good bit of Acts. But it's funny how when you're listening to it, you just, especially in that big of a streak, you know, where you're like 9 chapters of Acts, you find yourself noticing things differently than when you read it. And the thing I was telling Ben, the thing that is so striking in the book of Acts is every time he says, it did it. It turned off. It turned off.
You should turn your flashlight off.
We're just, no, it's working. We're just recording on an iPhone.
Moderate technical difficulties. So Becca was
our
saying,
motto is improvise, adapt, and overcome.
stop, drop, and roll.
We may sound different. That's because it's a different recording device.
That might be what it is. So
stop
Becca,
us.
you were telling me.
What I was saying was that as you're listening to the book of Acts, as opposed to reading it, and instead of reading it in little 1-chapter chunks, I'm just listening to it through, you know, like 9 chapters at a time. And I was noticing how every time he says Jesus Christ, he throws in whom you crucified. And it was so striking. He does not let that slip. Whom you crucified. And it's like, you know, you don't...
Let's get it going again.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh, my word. We got a phone call. Now we don't know what we cut out.
So she's saying whom you crucified every time.
Whom you crucified every time. Which, if you get, like, the book of Ephesians or something, the Ephesians didn't crucify Christ. But in Jerusalem, they did. And it's surprising how many times he works that one in.
Yeah.
Like... lest you forget who we're talking about.
Well,
the one that you crucified.
Right.
Anyway, like,
so
it's just, it's kind of fun noticing.
So we had, I feel like I did. Did I say all of this about Joseph in our last one?
Yeah, we talked about it.
I covered that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so the thing, that's funny, but when you said that about whom you crucified, I'm remembering that part in the crucifixion story where they all are yelling, let his blood be upon us. And,
oh my gosh.
And on our children.
It's
and
so
it horrifies
chilling.
me.
So
like,
chilling.
It's so, you're just like, oh. But then the thing that's so crazy is like an amen. Like,
I know.
Like, it's both.
It's like a double meaning.
It's both like, this is such horrible wickedness. And then also like today at church, you know, when we're getting to the Lord's Supper, and that's what I say to my little boys. We always say, are you washed in the blood and in the water? Like, and Moses will pat us. Yeah. You know, it's like washing the blood in your heart and pat his head in the water. I said, Shadrach, are you washed in the blood or are you washed in the water? He looked at me and he said, both. I was like, both.
Good boy.
It's
Good
both.
Good boy.
And, anyways, the point of that, like saying, let his blood be on us and on our children. And it's such a horrific thing to say in the Macbeth kind of a way, like the out-damned spot, like,
well, in the sense that they meant it, and
what they meant was like, oh, that's fine, we'll take the guilt for that, and not knowing that it was the only path to being forgiven. I mean, it's just anyways, that part always makes me feel sick. Like, I'm just like, oh no, don't do it. But then, you know. So,
all right, we don't know what's happening with our recording devices and situations this time. It's sort of a dot-to-dot happening. But
it's actually, this is like the show that it's a scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
We're like, take your next clue.
So the
follow us to our next location with a different recorder.
That we have here now is, should we have a tip?
Yeah, the problem is that I said we would talk about a table setting tip, but I do not have a good one because I feel like there's been way too much reckless table setting in my life lately.
Okay.
So I don't feel like I'm really winning at setting tables recently. So,
Well, when you teach your girls to set the table, let me tell you one of the things for me.
okay.
Is like teaching the girls to set the table. You know, you can look it up online. There's plenty of diagrams on where to put what. It's not just a free-for-all of fling a collection of utensils onto a...
But on a regular weeknight.
Sure. But
Yeah.
I just mean, like, we always, there's the way that you set the table with the fork on the correct side and the knife on the correct
Right.
side and all that. But one of the things we had to work through is when the kids when they were younger and they would get into a hurry setting the table, the plates are just drifting out all over the middle of the table. And so teaching them where to set the plate so the edge touches the edge of the table. Like just have it line up here. And then this is how you set the napkin on. And then the fork sits on the napkin.
I feel like we go in
left,
extremes.
You
Either someone's in the mood to set the table and I'm in the kitchen so I don't see what's happening. So every once in a while you're like, oh, you got out all of the crystal and the placemats and the napkin rings and the whole shebang for spaghetti. Or I come around the corner and I'm like, what now? You call this set because... And I'm like, but where are the forks? And they're like, look, I threw them all in the middle of the table.
Yeah.
You're like, no, this is not it,
But I
guys.
just mean, like, learning how to, like, this is what it looks like when you set the table correctly. And this is where the glass goes. That's one of the things Mom did really well.
Yeah, she was good. But
Even when it was paper napkins.
We had those old goblets. You know, those green goblets.
We had those green goblets.
And Mom always gave me, like, she would tell me to decorate Dad's napkin. I was the youngest, so I really got that. I was probably the one that was least easy to control at dinner time.
Probably.
So I remember, like, a daily task of drawing sailboats all over Dad's paper napkin.
Oh, that's cute.
I mean, I was like getting that thing ready for the Navy. Was what I did every night because Dad was in the Navy.
How
It was
cute.
like I thought he really liked boats. It's funny because he does sort of, I guess, but it's not like he's a boat fanatic. But we had that
No.
brass boat. I think I thought
Oh,
boats
man.
was like his scene, so I would draw boats, and then we had these avocado green goblets that Mom still has all colors of goblets, but not that color. She must have worn out on that color, but the bottom we use those all the time at dinner. But the pedestal had a little dip.
Yeah, if it
in
was
it.
upside down. Mm-hmm.
It was upside down. And I remember, I think, us just really yearning to do it upside down for Dad sometime.
I remember
so
this.
We
We
did
thought it would be so
We
winning.
thought it would be like epic funny if we filled the pedestal with milk.
Yeah, so you get
instead
like a
of the cup.
tablespoon of milk
Yeah.
in there.
Remember her letting us do it and us nearly dying of anticipation about that.
About
Like,
what would he
That's
think?
it's just such a good example of what mothering joyfully, what kinds of things that might entail. Like,
Yeah.
how do we both remember that?
I
Like,
know.
If she let us
Of
fill
all
the
the funny
back,
things, we thought
the
it was
wrong end of
such
the,
a
we were like, this is
witticism.
going to be amazing. It's like when my kids will say occasionally, like, oh, we always steal Dad's undershirts when he goes out of town and tie-dye them. Well, we did that one time, like, many years ago, and I told them we tie-dyed them for them to wear as jammies. He was, like, due for a new round of undershirts, so
Yeah.
we tie-dyed a set of them, and I got him a new one. But they thought it was going to be, like, so funny when Dad couldn't find his undershirts and then they were tie-dyed. It was like, and now they still think that that's, like, our family tradition. Like, we did it
It's
once.
what we do. They're going to put it in their
The
autobiographies.
kind of people that we are is whenever Dad
This
goes
is
out
what
of
we
town, we
do.
tie-dye his undershirts.
That's hilarious.
But, yeah, that kind
No,
of
but
thing.
I just think, like, in terms of, like, having the table look beautiful, whether or not it's a sloppy Wednesday night and it's paper plates or something, that's, we all have those nights, and it's such a blessing that paper plates are in the
I
world.
feel like I've been having those nights too often, though, where I'm usually have not set the table myself. You
well,
know?
I have the kids at the table. That's
Well,
the
yeah,
thing.
your kids are much
But-
more responsible.
But there's lots of years of going out and saying, okay, come back here and here's how you're going to do it. Let's pull the plates
Right.
back and put them at the edge of
I
the table.
do
and-
things like I bought restaurant supply water pitchers, like the kind that they use at a restaurant, those stainless ones,
Oh, yeah.
because they're not so heavy when they have water in them.
Yeah.
A pot like a ceramic or glass can be really heavy for
Yeah.
little kids to
Yeah.
pour.
Yeah.
So I bought those.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, our background noises are really good tonight. Our lack of focus combined with the background noises.
Yeah.
So those pictures, though, I use those, and then I don't like placemats very much.
No, I don't.
But
use
I
placemats.
feel like I need them because I feel like I want the kids to know that there's like a limit on how far your stuff goes. Like,
Actually, there's truth there.
yeah, I'm like, this is your personal table. And then there's the shared space. But the problem is, then I just don't know why I want to wash those all the time. And because of the kids, because of that, I feel like we have, hi Ben.
Hello.
Don't let me interrupt you.
No, nothing else has tonight.
We're just on our like third device to record on, so we're winning already. We can't lose now.
I'm just gonna whiz by and fling witty remarks.
So special guest.
Yeah,
My
special
husband.
debut from Ben coming home. So the placemat thing, though, I always think I should do that again, but I just don't like cleaning them off all the time. You know, having to pick noodles out of the placemats,
No.
wash them.
No,
like,
it's not.
I got laundry enough as it is.
It's very true.
Yeah.
It's very true. Anyway, but I don't know that any tip emerged from what we just said.
Restaurant supply pitcher.
That's
that was
good.
a tip.
That was a
Is that
tip.
a tip?
Yeah.
Oh, I do have another tip. If you have little kids, I buy those. I bought one once. The lettuce knife, a plastic lettuce knife.
Okay.
It's like rips lettuce instead of
Okay.
like slicing it like a blade, but it's also very little kid safe.
Okay.
So if you do a salad spinner and a lettuce knife, it is a great job for little kids.
Okay, that's
like
good.
because they love to do it, but it is also safety first.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I will do is the little group, the Shadrach age. He's 5, but even Blair could get into it. Is that dinner hour thing? I let them peel potatoes and carrots. I'm like, build skills. We don't have to be eating a potato. Potatoes and carrots are so cheap, and
Yeah.
they seldom ask what happened to it. Like, they just peel them. And carrots you can just keep
Yeah, you
peeling
just
until there's
whittle it.
no carrot anymore.
See if you can
and
whittle it down.
and they just build skills. So like I
Yeah.
got them. I
Well, that's a good tip.
bought
That's a
some
good one.
extra peelers that were just for the kids to use.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, I do that. So sometimes if I'm really not needing help in the kitchen, but I still have a couple people peeling veg
Mm-hmm.
in the sink.
Okay, now somebody else asked if we would talk about favorite cookbooks.
All
And
right,
so this
that's
is
related.
a good, I feel like I can say things about this. The first thing is, I think cookbooks are hugely valuable for obviously recipes, but mostly I think a big part of it is inspiration.
Oh, my word, yes.
You know, even if you don't end up using every single recipe in the book, it really
Oh,
it's
no.
like it can send you down different paths and go in different
Yes.
directions. And even if all you do is get one really valuable new skill out of it or
Yes.
new tip out of it or something.
Or it's kind of like a continuing ed class, I think.
Yeah, and
like
so-
you like look through it, you probably learn some stuff. You
Yeah.
maybe make a dish or two.
So the thing is, like, I feel like I have some real cookbook recommends, but some of them are more for that than they are for the actual recipes. So the first thing is the cookbook I would recommend for recipes, as far as just a large number of wins out of it, is the Colorado cookbook.
That's true.
The
but
Junior League of
that's,
Colorado, or Denver.
It's a specific one. Colorado Collage.
No. It's just called the Colorado Cookbook.
The Colorado Cookbook. It has like aspen trees on the
Yeah,
front.
and it's the Junior League of Denver.
Yeah,
and my Aunt Jill gave it to me for my wedding, and it was like, oh my goodness, so many good recipes in
good
that.
one.
And so that
I don't
one,
think I have that one anymore.
mine is very, very battered, and I haven't, honestly, I need to go back to it and pull some of those old favorites out, but that was such a
Street
fun
pasta
one.
was
Yeah,
from
West
that
38th
one,
Street
and
pasta.
the Colorado calzones. And
Primavera pie. Anyway, there were lots of the Miners Camp pie. There was lots of good stuff in that one. And so just as far as like good recipes, I loved that one.
Right.
But then there's some other ones that I love less for the recipes necessarily and more just because it gets you thinking about stuff.
Right.
So one that made a difference to me was called the Breakfast Cookbook, and I can't remember who wrote it.
Is that blue one?
No, it's a little white hardback. But it was great because it's like she is a woman who has distinct opinions about how you scramble an egg. And she has a long description of how you have to beat the egg before you scramble it, and it makes all the difference in the world. And so when you read somebody who's really passionate about this is how you scramble an egg, it actually just makes you look at things differently and look at it a little bit more precisely and think, oh, how you beat the egg might actually make a difference in the finished product.
Right.
And
well, one thing I would encourage women who are cooking at home is don't just read stuff, but try things that you like. Think of it kind of like, well, this is a bad example, but sometime in college, I'd read a lot. I grew up reading a lot, and then I read a lot in college, and I realized there were still a ton of classics that I'd never read. And so I would go regularly to the bookstore and just go to the classics section and get a book that I knew I should have read by now. Like I was like, how come I've never read any of this guy, or I've never done this? So I would do that and do some of that when you're cooking.
With cooking.
Like when you're like, I don't know how to make a good pie crust. Well, like, don't let that last very long.
Or where
make
you
a
think,
pie crust.
How about crepes? Maybe I should.
You're like, why haven't I
learn
done that?
to do that.
So it doesn't have to be like you can feed your family and take yourself through a cooking school at the same time.
Yeah.
You can do that. And that's the thing is that I do that kind of thing pretty often. Like, I feel like I would make the...
Yeah, it's like, just decide you're going to learn how to make croissants. And then the thing is, master it. Like, you have to always do it like 4 or 5 times.
It's tying it in with an earlier theme. I can't master croissants and not be fat. When I made those croissants for Easter, I wasn't sure I could come back to croissants for a long time because they were so good.
They were
and
really
it was
good.
like, that is not safe. It is not
but
safe.
the thing is, like, you can't just make it once.
But I'm glad you reminded me of it. No,
you can't
I'll
just make
go
it
back
once
to
and
those
feel
for
like,
sure.
yeah, I've done that. You always have to try it again, and you're like, wait, this
and you
turned out
expect it
different.
to not turn out great the first time,
Yeah.
and you do it again. And you know what I did that with is I make homemade pasta usually in the best recipe. The Cook's Illustrated way is like in a food processor.
Okay.
But the Mario Batali Molto Italiano way is, where you make a little pile of flour and you do the well. And there was a time a while ago that I was like, I'm just going to make fresh pasta all the time so that I can get good at the well because I want to know that I can do this.
That's tricky.
It is. And you made an eggy paper mache that just blew all over the fronts of your cabinets.
It leaked all down everywhere.
But I did actually, I don't know that I could pick up my skills where they were at that time, but I did actually get to where I could do it in the little
Can I
mound.
just insert something here? Today when I was making the noodles, I did it in my KitchenAid, and I used the dough hook, and I was using semolina flour and regular flour and then the salt, and I just used the dough hook to stir it up because it makes a well like that. And then I beat up the water and the egg and a bit of olive oil and I dumped it into the well, and then
Where's this recipe from?
Oh, it's just some basic pasta recipe. But I was trying to recreate the well system, but in my KitchenAid, and it worked surprisingly well because then you can keep adding a little bit of water until it pulls together into a ball, and you don't have it leaking down your cabinets. But
so the Mario Batali one is no water.
Oh, this one had oil and water and egg.
Yeah, probably because you had the semolina too. Semolina, I think, needs more water than the...
Well, I was just throwing some semolina in because I just used the rest of the bag up, and then so I just kind of added water to it.
Well, anyways, my point is there's lots of times that I'm like, why don't I know how to do this? I'm going to do this. Why don't I know how to do You know,
Yeah.
like, I ought to be able to do this. And sometimes you think that wasn't really that great, and I don't know why we all thought that would, like, I don't know why people think that matters, but at least
Yeah.
I've done it, and I can,
Right.
it's like reading a book that you didn't care for that is a classic. You're like, so maybe quiche is not my favorite thing in the world, but
Yeah.
at least I know
But
how to
I've
make
tried.
a quiche.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
And so, as far as like cookbooks go, one that I really enjoy is Mad Hungry: Feeding Men and Boys, mostly because it makes you think about that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's a good topic.
it's a good topic, feeding men and boys, and it's just like, and there's some good recipes in there, but mostly
Right.
it's like, I love it that she cares about that,
Yes.
and it makes you think about it in that way. And then and I remember years ago, you were in it too, the cookbook club.
Oh,
of some
yeah.
sort.
Oh, yeah, I
And the
forgot
thing that
about
was
that.
great about that is, like, you would pick out what cookbooks you wanted to be shipped to you next time or whatever. And I feel like I got a lot of benefit out of that, because that Rouse cookbook from New York,
that was it. That was a good one.
it just made you like care about Italian food in an interesting way. Like, oh wait, okay, this is
Right.
somebody who's passionate about marinara sauce, and you read
Yeah.
about that, and it makes you feel like there's nuances here, and I
Right.
should learn about it. And so I think cookbooks can be really valuable just for that reason. That's why I love
And actually
Nigella's cookbooks
that
for the same
Rouse-
reason, and
Rouse-
Jamie Oliver's as well.
Yeah, he's good. And I probably some of my favorite cookbooks in terms of most inspiring. Like, one that I think she's really good because of this. She blends between the inspiring side with the actually just tons of good recipes. Like, is Smitten Kitchen. Deb
Yes, I
Perlman.
have that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Can
really
I say
great
that
stuff
the
in there.
brisket recipe in that one is like absurdly good?
Well, that's good to know. There's one in there that's like a black bean. I don't even know how you say it. Black bean. She has it like on toast. It's like black bean ragu. O-U-T though.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah, I think
the
that's
pasta
ragu,
sauce.
isn't it?
I don't know, but it's not ragu, the jarred pasta
No.
sauce. So anyways, that is super good, but I make it for I don't do it on bruschetta, but that's the black bean cooking inspiration that I've always used. Now
Yeah.
whenever I make black beans,
Yeah.
I don't look it up, but I do what I learned
Right.
from her.
And and I think, like, honestly, when I use Pinterest for recipes frequently, because I'll be like, I need a good whatever recipe. If you look it up on Pinterest, you can see the ones that are really highly rated, and
Yeah.
that can be very handy. And you can see a picture of it at the same time. So I do use that, but Pinterest is not inspiring in the same way that I think a cookbook can be, because a cookbook is
actually like there's
It's more
something
like-
about letting you visit someone in their kitchen.
It's
What
like-
do you
it's like-
care about? What do you value?
And it's like listening to a whole album instead of just buying the single. It's
Yeah,
like
that's true.
You get a fuller experience.
Well, you feel like you're learning from the person. I have to say
Yeah.
that Giada has some really good recipes.
really good ones.
But I have one of her cookbooks is called like Everyday.
Everyday Italian.
Yes.
I think I might have that one.
That's
too.
actually that one has, like, there's a sausage and artichoke heart and sun-dried tomato recipe in that one that is really good. It's at pasta. I left out the pasta part of that. Just a little, yeah, but it is really delicious, and it actually introduced me to a different genre of, like, I think it has chicken broth in the, like, it's like the sausage and stuff in chicken broth. It's not a creamy white sauce,
Right.
but it is really flavorful and all on all of the noodles. It was like a different
Well-
pasta technique than I'd ever done.
And like one time, I was trying to make myself get all the ironing done on one day a week instead of the emergency ironing, but like get it all done ahead of time.
Yeah.
And so
I'm
I
just
was
gonna
like,
drop it here that this is also like us not eating out of the garden. Is that
well, let me just
I
also
have a
say this
steam
was
sitting on my
this
dryer,
was like
so
2 years ago.
so we like sometimes refresh steam some
I would
stuff,
like nobody to
but-
look at any Merkel's clothes this week to see if they're ironed. This
All
was
right,
like
so
2
go
years
ahead.
ago.
Go ahead, yeah.
But I was trying to get myself to do that, and we don't have like cable or anything TV. Like if we want to watch something, we use Netflix or Amazon Prime
Yeah.
or something. But anyway, I was like, I should just try and watch a couple of food shows while I iron, because it will be sort of
It's
multitasking.
continuing ed, yes.
It's like I will maybe get some fresh ideas to get me out of a slump of cooking, and I will get some ironing done at the same time. And
Right.
and that actually was kind of like really helpful in a weird way, because
Because you're like, it was like a relaxing time to get a lot of stuff done.
yeah, because never in my lifetime do I turn on the TV during the day. Like,
No.
that does not ever happen because, well, I have way too much to do. But it was like, wait, I need to get the ironing done. And I'm going to just set this up right here. And I'm going to try and watch a couple cooking shows. And maybe it will... And I actually planned it so that I would do it before I made my menu for the week.
This is really multitasking.
Because then I'd be like, I might have a new good idea. And I actually came across
Often
some
did,
really
I
good
bet.
ones
If you
that
watch
way.
Ina Garten, she's very inspiring.
I did watch Ina Garten,
Although
but
I
it
like
was kind
her
of like
better
I was
without-
stuck with whatever was like available on Netflix.
Right,
So,
right.
but I did like that was actually kind of a good. But it was similar to the cookbook thing in that like you just stop for a minute and actually listen
like-
to somebody talk about it.
So I have a lot. I like. I have one cookbook that's called Truck Food, which is all recipes from good food trucks around the nation,
And that's fun.
There have been a number of. There's a number of really good things in it. Some of them that were good, but I haven't repeated. But they were good. You know, like just interesting, fun things to do. And then I guess we have. Now we're like talking really long-winded.
You know.
Did you think?
The last time I turned my phone on to see how long we've been going, it said like 8:30, and I did the
thought
math.
the
I
same
did
thing.
the math. I was like, oh, the other was 25 minutes, and this is 8:30. But it was 8:30 at night, guys.
I actually did the same thing.
That's so
because-
funny. And we've just been talking. This is like a world record length podcast.
And we're only just getting started.
We're like, now
We haven't even talked about carving pumpkins yet.
Now we're going to talk about truck food, and then we're going to talk about... This just
Oh,
goes
my
to show
word.
you, Rach,
Oh my word, this is our worst yet.
that
Okay.
we can talk indefinitely. That's the lesson from tonight.
Oh my word, we
that's
will let you
really
all
hilarious.
go. We will let
Everyone's
you go.
done. They're trying to get their own lives together. Oh my word,
Well,
that's
thanks
so
for
funny.
enduring us.
Well,
Have a good night.
we kind of pulled
or
it
day,
together there.
or whatever
Have
it is.
fun.
Goodbye.
Bye.
New St. Andrews College thanks you for listening.